Partners TV, or what we call CPTV, and I'm joined by Merlin Bise, the CTO of Inbenta, an AI-powered customer experience company. Thanks for joining me, Merlin.
Thanks, David. Appreciate you having me here. Look forward to it.
So there's a lot of discussion these days around consolidation and AI, a lot of discussions around all parts of AI, but what are you seeing out there in the markets that you deal with?
Well, I think the primary reason you're starting to see some consolidation is people are, initially when AI hit, well, we'll step back up. When large models came on the scene, uh, everybody dove in. So everybody became an AI expert. They launched an AI business. Every company that was working with AI decided to give you a free chat bot or the ability to search content. And I think companies explored doing it themselves. They explored using a variety of vendors. You would see companies with five or six different vendors because it was kind of a test bed. They need to figure out who could perform, who could work best with their data. And I think what they figured out is they're starting to settle on companies that have more of a traditional background in the AI space, because a lot of, let's back up real quick. Inbenta, uh, is about a 20-year-old conversational AI business. We understand the business very well, helped pioneer it in Europe. Obviously, I did, and I've been an Inbenta for about 2 years. But I think now that these more traditional AI companies have understood how to use and piece in the technology, the vast technologies LLMs offer, from embeddings to mass matching logic to the ability to contextually make the conversation much more human-like. I think now that that technology is blended, the AI companies that understand how to deliver it and build AI solutions are starting to get more of the market share. So the consolidation is companies are trying to pick one vendor that can perform their AI task, maybe two at the most, but they're getting away from the gimmick AI companies or the AI organizations that are giving away free chatbots that really weren't in that particular space at the beginning of this LLM boom. They might have been a CRM provider, they might have been a phone provider that just bolted on AI. They're starting to figure out they need to work with organizations that kind of understand how to make this stuff work really well, that understand how to make it very accurate so we get rid of hallucinations, and you deliver a world class solution. Customers, they'll tolerate a little bit of issue and friction with AI, but they don't like it. They'll just simply leave it alone if you don't have a good performing product. One quick example of this is there was a retailer I was reading in Australia that had a chat bot that was probably given to them by a retail, ERP system provider, something of that nature. That simply went off the rails. They were asking about a purse or shoes, and it started talking about a mom. And not that moms aren't important, they're certainly important. That may be a good way to sell shoes and purses. But the point is, it went off the rails. And that's a perfect example of working or using an org to deploy technology that's not really an expert at it. So I think that's why consolidations happen. The cake, by the way, we're still in the first inning or the first step at AI. We're not, AI is changing rapidly still. I know if you're not in the business, you might not think so, but it's adapting faster than any of us would believe. Uh, but I think the first, like, everybody can do AI good, that kind of is over. Now it's like the companies that really are in it for the long game are starting to take advantage of the tech and really refine and do really cool things. And I think companies are going to take notice of that. All of our customers, at least the new ones we've obtained and stuff, they've been talking to us about, hey, can you do this other use case? Can you do this use case? And what it is they have confidence in what we're delivering, and they're wanting to pull back from three or four or five vendors that they have and consolidate. It's natural. Most people want to manage one vendor.
Yeah, so you make a good point. I mean, everybody's doing AI now, but there's not a lot of companies out there with deep expertise like you guys have. So, you talked about, the market is flooded. There's so many AI vendors out there doing automation, intelligence. But I bet that what makes you guys a good strategic platform for channel partners?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we'll be honest with the customer. So let me kind of clarify what that means. There's a lot of people out there saying, "Hey, we can build you agent automation and agentic automation and all this stuff." The bottom line is most of this is trigger-based automation. It's not agentic agents doing this. It's still very simple. If a customer clicks this button or says this word or does this, do these 4 steps. That's trigger-based automation. I mean, you're talking to somebody that's got 25 years in that space. I mean, my previous background and our CEO's previous background, if we built one of the largest identity-based authentication platforms in the world, it still powers most of the major money systems in the U.S. For bank accounts and authentication. That was based on trigger-based automation. If these events happen, fire off these events. So we're honest with customers. Where an agent or intelligent automation is needed, we deploy it. But 90% of the cases today that have these sophisticated agent-based automations are not necessary. So what happens is companies are paying 60, 80% more than they should on tokens and all these fancy things, and they bolt it on. It's like taking a Ferrari motor, which is a fabulous motor. Let me be clear. But you're sticking a Ferrari motor in a lawnmower at Lowe's and you're charging $35,000 for it. So you might have a Ferrari buyer that wants a yellow engine and a, gray mower. It's not a John Deere. That would make sense if it's a John Deere, but maybe they'll pay 35,000, but it's not necessary to mow your lawn unless you want to mow it really fast. So this is the challenge: is be honest with your customer. If it's a simplistic webhook automation or if it's a trigger-based automation that can be, and by the way, our interface in Canvas lets you do all three. It lets you do very simplistic things, a little bit more powerful trigger-based automation, and then it lets you do very sophisticated intelligent automation where basically the system knows based on content and kind of the flow of the conversation what it should do. So it's really agentic. It can work on its own. We can do all three, but we want to have a real conversation with the customer and say, listen, why are you paying us to do all this when this right here will solve your, again, most automations are very simplistic. They're not hard. As an example, let's say a customer's having a digital conversation. They need to be escalated into a human. We can escalate that into a human. But by the way, you've got a sales rep that's working on a $2 million deal. He needs that data in real time virtually in Salesforce. So as that escalation's happening, we're closing out resolution. It's putting that data into Salesforce. Again, that's an automation. Doesn't require a sophisticated agent with bells on his head and lights. It simply requires just smart, intelligent based, trigger based automation. That sales guy now knows in real time what just transpired. So he's got insight, if it's important enough, into that so he can get ahead of it and close his deal. Them are the kind of things companies are worried about. They want to make sure that they're taking care of all aspects of their business. And that's, I think, where Inbenta comes into play. We've integrated with virtually every major system you can imagine. We have over 850 integrations with different type of systems, and we can integrate with anything. But I think setting down and understanding. The other thing I would say is that we really have figured out, and again, it takes time because LLMs this was like a giant bloom was dropped on this entire AI space, but you have to work with customers from a consultative point of view, which means you're going to have to listen, you're going to have to learn, and you're going to have to take wins and build trust. Doesn't mean you got to win the whole thing. You take wins. So in some cases, you may have to build shadow systems where you're trying to consolidate workflows and consolidate mundane tasks into automation, but you got to do it in a very trustworthy way. And then that's in automations, by the way, it's a great question because that's the next phase of everything in enterprise AI. Is voice is really big right now, but it's transitioning into building these more robust automated systems. And by the way, Microsoft's got Power Automate. You've got Automation Anywhere. You got these big bolt-on companies, but they're so huge, it's very hard for them to be nimble. And that's where the AI automation play is so important because it can do all these little nimble tasks and you get a nice little interface to drag and drop and set them up. So it's very cool, but we also have to work with our clients to make sure we're doing what's best for them.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of ways people can go with AI, and you make a good point where, it's it's a consultative play, right? You have to know how you want to use it, what you want to do with it, and what the best way to go is. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to coming by and seeing Inbenta at the Channel Partners Expo Hall and your booth. And so, what do you want the attendees to come talk to you about?
Well, we really want the attendees to come and talk about their business and what they're doing, because I mean, we obviously will do demos for them and showcase any part of what we can do, and we can do a lot. We're not everything in AI, but we do know it really well. So if we can't do something, we're happy to tell them who can. Because one of the biggest mistakes companies can make is say they can do something and not deliver on what they say. That's a major no-no. Reputation's big in any space, but we want to learn about their business. Naturally, our customer success drives our success. If they're not successful in business, we're not going to be successful. And I think the biggest thing we want to learn is how do they execute every day on what they have to do to be successful. As an example, um, every company has a subset of best people, whether we like it or not. I mean, obviously you're good at what you do, or you wouldn't be here doing this interview. They would, get somebody else that might be better. And so likewise for me, I would love somebody to be at my spot, but hey, it's a tough spot to be in right now as a CTO. But the point is, companies have their best people. We'll have our best people at the show. That's one reason you come by and see us. But what we want to do is we want to free up the best people to do the best things. And so the way you do that is you take away some of these little things that take an enormous amount of time, where you don't want AI taking everything, because here's what AI can't do. And I know you might get an LLM CEO on here and argue, but AI will never replace a human brain, because AI can never be created the same way. And so the human brain is intelligent in ways that sometimes we don't even know. And I know our behavior sometimes make people wonder, how in the heck can you say that? But the human brain's very unique. But we need the best people doing the best things. That makes the smartest AI. And if you can basically take some of these tasks that aren't, and that's what we got to learn about the business. Where can we plug in AI to solve these customer issues, to help sales enablement, move your customer through a channel to a deal faster? How can we create, better intuitive voice systems that intercept up front versus traditional recordings, things like that? But we've got to learn about the customer's business. Where do we fit? We're not a fix all solution. We want to figure out where we fit. Can we be an economical, blessing or help to an organization? And because we don't like rip and replace. And I know that sounds cliche, but I talk to companies that have already spent a lot of money with AI partners or AI companies. They haven't had success. What I like to do is learn how can we adapt to what they've already done and maybe make it a success. We really try to do that. All of our data, when we work with companies, we store it in a very standard way. And I say this, and I'll end with this comment. We tell people the reason we do that is we're the AI company you can fire if we don't do a good job. We're going to store the information. We're going to give you data in a way that you can take it as portable, go to another company if we don't perform. It's kind of a promise we make, because again, our customer success is our success.
So no lock-in, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's honestly everybody should be pursuing that with AI businesses, because if you're working with one that you're locked to, chances are you're going to get let down.
Well, thanks, Merlin. This has been great. I know I learned a lot here. I appreciate you joining me today. And we hope that all of you watching this will show up at Channel Partners Conference and Expo, April 13th through the 16th in Las Vegas, and stop by the Inbenta booth and learn a lot about AI like I did today. So again, thanks.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.